Hey everybody, it's Bob Crossan. I'm the editorial director of the Endeavor Business Media Water Group. I'm joined today by Matt Williams. He is the director of Smith Creek Landfill, and we're going to be talking about some of their PFAS leachate solutions that they've been employing at their facility. So Matt, thank you so much for being here and chatting with us about this field, which is, I'm sure, very important for a lot of these wastewater folks who are bringing biosolids off into landfills.
Yeah, Bob, I'm very happy to be here. I appreciate the opportunity to share what our experience has been here at Smiths Creek and what we've done to kind of answer the issues that we've been presented with.
Yeah, could you explain some of the challenges that you were facing with PFAS in the landfill leachate prior to the solutions that you came to and the upgrades that you made at your facility? What were you dealing with at the facility before you made this change?
Well, I don't know how many of your listeners live in the solid waste landfill world, but probably every municipal solid waste landfill in the United States certainly has a pretty strong amount of PFAS compounds within the waste mass that leach out into the liquid that we call leachate. So, um, when well, I guess it's about 6 or 7 years ago now, the whole PFAS emerging contaminant situation came up, and everyone started looking at that really hard after there were several sites across the country, mostly industrial facilities, where there had been some pretty bad groundwater contamination. They were tracking some serious health issues with some industrial employees and folks out of their drinking water who lived next to some of these facilities. So it was getting a lot of attention. And Michigan kind of took it upon itself to be uh, in the lead in responding and preparing for PFAS legislation, treatment, regulation. So Michigan's been a bit ahead of the curve than the rest of the country, one of the very hand of leading states. So in looking at that broader, where is PFAS coming from? What are we going to do about it? What are acceptable levels? Landfills came under scrutiny simply because it was pretty well known once testing started being done, probably suspected already that landfill leachate had a lot of PFAS compounds in them. And here at Smiths Creek Landfill, our leachate is pre-treated in a facility we have on site. And from there, it's pumped ultimately through, well, it's pumped through the local POTW, Public Owned Treatment Works, basically the sewer pipe, to the Port Huron Wastewater Treatment Plant, which is about 15 miles away. So the treatment plant, who has the ultimate requirements for their discharge into the local waterway, the state imposed on them certain effluent limits and guidelines for PFAS, the most significant of which were PFAS and PFOS. I'm sorry. Yeah, PFAS and PFOS. So they tasked us to start analyzing our landfill leachate to test periodically to kind of trend what was going on over time, and tasked us to start looking at what we should do or what we would do down the road to treat for those PFAS compounds. So we probably had a good six-year run analyzing where it was coming from within a facility and what those levels looked like over time. And then in March of last year, the Port Huron Wastewater Treatment Plant amended our industrial discharge permit, under which we sent them our leachate wastewater. And along with that modification to our permit, they said, okay, we're giving you about a year to figure out what kind of treatment you're going to install, to get that treatment installed, and to get your leachate treated to a point where you're below that permit level that we've now put in for you. So we had a pretty short run once they said, okay, you got to do something now. And we accomplished it. So
Yeah, so what was your experience like trying to find this solution? How many vendors did you look into, and what were there any challenges with trying to find solutions for this? What was your experience like in like trying to find out something that was going to help you guys out here?
yeah, honestly, at the beginning, I just did a lot of my own research. So I went online, started looking at treatment technologies. I probably attended 5 or 6 technical seminars in Michigan. Um, we're hearing all about PFAS, where it comes from, how you treat it, can it be destroyed, et cetera, et cetera. And from that baseline information, I started looking at and talking with different vendors. I talked with a couple reverse osmosis vendors. I talked with a granulated activated carbon vendor system, but everything was pretty expensive. And at least with the reverse osmosis, it looked like there was a very high percentage of byproduct water. They only treated, you only got about 80% clean and the 20% remaining. And it varied. Maybe it was 15%, depending upon who you talk to. But it was quite a bit of water. We generate around 50,000 gallons of leachate per day here. So when you're talking 12, 15 gallons, 1,000 gallons per day of now higher concentrated PFAS in our leachate, and you have to do something with that. That was going to be a bit problematic, I thought. So at the time, when I first started looking, foam fractionation, I don't recall really seeing it or reading much about it. It was only in the last few years did I see and hear much about the foam frac treatment process, which is ultimately where we made our decision to go.
Yeah, so what was it about the foam fractionation technology that you selected that was so attractive compared to the others? You mentioned like the cost, obviously. Was it also like a results-driven thing? Like were there other elements that kind of like pushed you more in that direction over some of the other choices?
In our case here at Smiths Creek, we already have a pretreatment facility, as I mentioned, constructed on site. And we're already pre-treating our leachate before it goes to the wastewater treatment plant, primarily for heavy metals. We treat for ammonia, we treat for BOD, COD to some degree. So for us, we were getting the treatment we needed for ultimate disposal at the wastewater treatment facility. So all I really needed to target on top of that was PFAS. So foam fractionation specifically targets PFAS compounds. So that's probably the primary driver that I had for selection of foam fractionation. Um, the one caveat to that I will mention is that foam frac just by nature treats for long chain PFAS compounds much more effectively than it does short chain. Um, but I don't have an imminent short chain PFAS treatment requirement, nor do I think I anticipate one in the near term future. And even at that, talking with who we ended up contracting with for the system said that, okay, well, we can do add-ons, we can do additional treatment add-ins to help do some more effective short chain treatment if necessary. So it's somewhat adaptable to that. So I think that's fine. Um, but really, the other thing about foam frac that I really liked and really struck a chord with me was the simplicity. So foam fractionation, I felt, due to the simplicity of the technology where we don't have chemical add-ins, it's very simple. There's no media cleanup involved and replacement. Was very attractive to me, just the whole simplicity of the treatment process. So that I particularly enjoy.
Yeah. So how has the technology performed thus far for you guys? What is it doing for you at the plant? Like, I imagine that it's working as intended. And then what's next? Like you mentioned, if you needed to, you could try and chase the short chain compounds if that became an issue. But what's next for the facility beyond this PFAS upgrade?
Well, let me speak to the PFAS of it first. What's next is simply what you meant, kind of what you alluded to there, and I sort of referred to. What's the next set of regulations that are come down the pipe? I know that we're not going to be relaxing treatment requirements and effluent standards in the future. If anything, they're going to be more restrictive. So, you know, the state of Michigan will pretty much follow what the EPA and the federal regulations are for almost most things. I will say that for PFAS, as I mentioned earlier, Michigan being a leader, they're more stringent than the EPA is kind of laying out there. So I anticipate that down the road, there is going to be more regulations, perhaps more compounds. What results into specific requirements within my discharge permit remains to be seen. It all depends on honestly, what the treatment plant is discharging. They get the direct regulation from the state of Michigan. And we're just upstream, so the wastewater treatment plant is regulating us, if you will. So we'll see where that goes. But I feel good that, as I mentioned before, I don't think any additional requirements are imminent. Down the road is more likely, and I think we're adaptable to a lot of what might come down the road with respect to PFAS. Now, there's other emerging contaminants that come up from time to time, and I'm sure will, and we'll see what happens with those. But for now, we're just going to continue with this particular treatment process, which is working, which was the other part of your question. So as I mentioned, I think I mentioned PFOS was the compound of concern for our wastewater treatment plant. And we had traditionally been running somewhere around 100 part per trillion of PFOS. Our permit limit was established at 130 part per trillion. So when we have been testing what we're sending to the treatment plant over these past years, we were occasionally above that threshold of 130. But most of the time we were under it. But to make sure we stay under it, we put in the treatment foam fractionation treatment system. So we've only been operating the system since early March, so we're not even 3 months in fully. Internal testing of treated leachate within our treatment facility show it's as advertised by the manufacturer. You're getting down to single digit part per trillion on your treated wastewater, which is phenomenal, which is what they said we could achieve, and it's what we're seeing. Now, in our particular case, our point of discharge is at the end of some aerated lagoons, which is an intermediate step between us and the wastewater treatment plant. So we've been utilizing those lagoons since 2011. Quite honestly, we haven't cleaned them out yet, so there's sediments in there that are PFAS-laden. But what I can tell you is that we had a 77% reduction. We went from about 125 first quarter testing to I think it was 29 part per trillion in second quarter. So, we reduced by over 75% the PFOS concentration. So it got us comfortably under the treatment ceiling that's been established for us. So I was very happy to see those numbers, and I don't anticipate that'll change moving forward.
Yeah. Well, I'm realizing I didn't even ask you the manufacturer, which I believe is Montrose Environmental ECT2, correct? Yeah. Well, yeah, it's great to hear from you about this, and I'm sure that there will be a lot of wastewater systems and utilities who are interested in this story and trying to figure out how they can talk with maybe some of their landfills of like, hey, there's some options that are available. Maybe we can find something that works for us too. So I appreciate you getting on the call with me and chatting about this and learning a little bit more about the technology involved.
Absolutely. You're very welcome for that. And I'll just give you an unsolicited plug for ECT2 and Montrose. They were very instrumental in working with me when I was speaking with vendors. Um, they made a couple visits to my facility and worked with me on what they potentially could do with a essentially custom build system. Our leachate pretreatment facility now actually had some floor space available, and they were able to install their system within our footprint without me having to build additional infrastructure or, an additional coal barn or anything like that, which was great. So they were wonderful to work with, very responsive. They gave us the most competitive price when we went out for a request for proposal. And we had an extremely short timeline from contract to operation. It was about a 2.5 month window. And they met the schedule. So they put pretty much all hands on deck and made it happen. And they were communicative through the whole process. They delivered what they advertised they were going to deliver. Um, and I'm extremely happy with the partnership with them and the work that they've done. So just want to give that plug for them because they did a bang up job and I'm very pleased.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much. I
Yeah. Well,
appreciate
thanks so
it.
much.
And for everyone who's watching, you can check out our video description below. We'll have some more information about technologies to handle PFAS down there. And once more to Matt, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your time.
You're very welcome, Bob. It's been my pleasure to, like I say, share what our experience has been. Thank you.